In the early months of 1945, as the Pacific War drew ever closer to Japan's home islands, the Imperial Japanese Navy and Army faced an urgent and growing dilemma. Their aircraft, once dominant across Asia and the Pacific, were now struggling against the relentless tide of advanced Allied fighters and bombers. American naval air power had matured rapidly, and at the forefront of this transformation was the Vought F-4U Corsair, a machine unlike any Japan had yet encountered. Its powerful Pratt & Whitney R2800 double-wasp engine, massive propeller, and distinctive inverted gull wings made it both a technical marvel and a deadly opponent. For the Japanese engineers and intelligence officers responsible for analyzing enemy equipment, obtaining one intact seemed almost impossible, until fate intervened off the coast of Japan itself. In the cold winter of early 1945, an American F-4U Corsair from a carrier-based squadron experienced sudden engine failure during combat operations. The pilot, unable to regain altitude, was forced to ditch his aircraft in the frigid waters of the Pacific. He survived the crash and was later rescued by Allied forces, but the Corsair itself, remarkably intact, drifted toward Japan's coastline. Patrol boats from the Imperial Navy recovered the wreckage near Shikoku, and when engineers first saw it hauled from the surf, they were astonished. Despite the impact and days in salt water, the aircraft's airframe showed a resilience they had not expected. Its structure had buckled only slightly. The engine mount remained intact, and even the complex wing mechanism seemed restorable. The recovery marked one of the rare moments in which Japan managed to capture a nearly complete example of one of America's most formidable fighters. The Corsair was transported to the Yokosuka Naval Air Technical Arsenal, Japan's principal aviation research center. Here, teams of engineers and test pilots gathered, many of whom had spent the previous years studying the wreckage of Allied aircraft recovered from battlefields. But none of those prior finds compared to the Corsair. The first impression recorded in their technical reports was disbelief at the aircraft's size and construction. The Corsair's fuselage was longer, heavier, and more ruggedly built than any Japanese single-engine fighter. Its armor plating, self-sealing fuel tanks, and robust landing gear were features seldom seen in Japanese aircraft, which had prioritized maneuverability and range over protection and strength. Engineers noted the use of heavy-gauge aluminum alloys, advanced fasteners, and a meticulous level of manufacturing precision. Every panel fit flush, and even after months at sea, the airframe displayed minimal corrosion, an indication of superior material treatment. When they examined the engine, the astonishment deepened. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 radial engine represented the pinnacle of American piston engine technology. Producing over 2,000 horsepower, it dwarfed the output of Japan's best radial engines, such as the Nakajima Sakai or Mitsubishi Kinsei. The Japanese engineers were particularly struck by its twin-row, 18-cylinder configuration and the use of complex supercharging and intercooling systems to sustain power at high altitude. The Corsair's engine installation also revealed a level of design integration the Japanese had not yet achieved. Oil coolers, air intakes, and exhausts were all carefully routed for efficiency and aerodynamic balance. The size of the Hamilton Standard propeller, over 13 feet in diameter, required the aircraft's distinctive inverted gull wing design to provide ground clearance. This, they realized, was not a stylistic flourish, but a highly functional innovation to marry power with practicality. The Yokosuka engineers attempted partial restoration. They cleaned and lubricated the mechanical systems, testing the control linkages, hydraulic actuators, and landing gear retraction mechanisms. The Corsair's hydraulics in particular impressed them for both reliability and simplicity of maintenance. Japanese aircraft often relied on more fragile or manually operated systems, and the Corsair's self-contained hydraulic units demonstrated an American preference for pilot workload reduction and mechanical redundancy. The cockpit, too, told a story of ergonomic evolution. Compared to the cluttered, manually intensive layouts of Japanese fighters, the Corsair's cockpit was orderly and intuitive. Instrumentation was logically grouped, clearly labeled, and electrically powered systems dominated. The presence of advanced radio equipment, oxygen regulators, and reflective gun sights indicated a fighter, built for sustained combat at high altitude, conditions under which many Japanese pilots struggled due to the limitations of their own aircraft. The test pilots at Yokosuka, though unable to fly the Corsair due to its incomplete restoration, conducted extensive ground evaluations and simulations. They compared its aerodynamic surfaces to those of the Kawanishi N1K2J Shidenkai, one of Japan's best late-war fighters, and concluded that the Corsair's wing design offered superior stability at high speeds and in dives. This observation aligned with American combat reports describing how Corsairs could dive away from nearly any Japanese aircraft without structural failure. The engineers also studied the Corsair's approach to damage control and survivability. Fuel lines were shielded, electrical systems duplicated, and critical areas armored, design philosophies that reflected an entirely different tactical doctrine. Where Japanese designers had built aircraft for agility and the offensive, American engineers had built machines to absorb punishment and return home. Japanese reports from the time record a tone of respect, even admiration. They noted that the Corsair embodied industrial superiority through standardization. Every component appeared mass-produced to tight tolerances, something Japan's handcraft-based production system could not easily replicate. Parts were interchangeable, assembly methods simplified for large-scale manufacturing, and maintenance accessibility prioritized. The Corsair, they realized, was not just a weapon. It was a symbol of an industrial process capable of outproducing and outperforming Japan's aviation industry many times over. The engineers' final assessments concluded that no Japanese engine could match the R-2800's performance or reliability under combat conditions. Nor could their factories duplicate the Corsair's structural precision without a complete overhaul of their production philosophy. From a tactical perspective, the analysis reinforced grim realities. The Corsair's combination of speed, firepower, and resilience explained the heavy losses Japanese pilots faced in the later years of the war. Armed with 6 50-caliber Browning machine guns, the Corsair could deliver devastating firepower in a short burst, while its armor and durability meant it could survive hits that would destroy most Japanese fighters. Its ability to operate from both land bases and aircraft carriers gave the U.S. Navy unprecedented flexibility. The engineers' findings, forwarded to senior command, contributed to a growing understanding that Japan's aviation technology could no longer keep pace. While efforts continued to develop advanced interceptors and jet prototypes, such as the Nakajima Kikka and Mitsubishi J-8M Shusui, these programs lagged far behind the Allies' wartime innovation cycle. By mid-1945, as Allied bombers pounded Japan's industrial centers and naval aviation dominated the seas, the captured Corsair at Yokosuka stood as a silent symbol of the technological gulf that had emerged between the two powers. Japanese scientists carefully documented every aspect of the aircraft, from metallurgy to cockpit instrumentation, hoping that its lessons might guide post-war aviation research. When the war ended in August, American occupation forces rediscovered the remains of the Corsair, still stored at the Yokosuka arsenal. Ironically, it now served as an educational tool for both sides, an artifact demonstrating how engineering philosophy, industrial organization, and material science could shape the outcome of modern warfare. In retrospect, the Japanese engineers' candid remarks about the Corsair reveal much about the contrasting design doctrines of the era. The Japanese approach, honed through years of naval combat and pilot-centric thinking, emphasized the mastery of flight and the artistry of maneuverability. The American approach, driven by engineering efficiency and mechanical superiority, sought to make the machine itself a decisive factor in victory. The F-4U Corsair represented that philosophy in full measure, an aircraft so powerful and resilient that even those who studied it as an enemy could not help but admire it. Today, the Corsair remains one of the most iconic fighters of World War II, remembered not only for its combat achievements, but for the respect it commanded from both friend and foe alike.